anything can make you sick. Even the good can be a curse.
We're going to be chatting with Lady Sidra Naeem. This is our local radio on 97.8 FM and online. It's Roz in the hot seat. Now, a story that's caught my eye in the Guardian today. Several national surveys suggest people from Black and Asian and minority backgrounds are far more likely to reject having the COVID-19 vaccine than their white counterparts. I want to dig a little bit deeper, try to get to the bottom of this. I'll be chatting with Lady Sidra Naeem in just a few moments' time. She's a Muslim chaplain, and this all follows on from a story. I saw a heartbreaking story of a Muslim man who lost his wife to COVID-19. Anyway, we'll chat with Lady Sidra and just vaccine hesitancy. What is behind the fears circulating in the BAME communities? That's the question that's being asked. Now, with nearly 8 million people here in the UK at least had one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, efforts are speeding up to increase the number of inoculations around the whole of the UK. Joining me now, though, I have Lady Sidra Naeem. She's no stranger to my show here on Gateway 97.8. Good afternoon. I should say Happy New Year to you, Lady Sidra. How are you keeping in these strange times?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for being here. I'm very well, thank you.
Yes, and this story that's caught my eye, I've forwarded it to you today. Now, several national surveys, it says here, suggest people from Black, Asian and minority backgrounds are far more likely to reject having the COVID-19 vaccine than their white counterparts. And I just want to try and get to the root cause of this. And after seeing a Muslim man on television last night and his wife, they both ended up in hospital. He recovered, and sadly, she passed away, and it broke my heart seeing, you know, how he was describing his wife looking so beautiful. But I think we want to reinforce to anybody in the BAME community this afternoon in Basildon that, you know, if you're going to get this letter to say go and have your vaccine, you're in the right age group, you must get vaccinated. Am I right, Lady Sidra?
Yes, I think it's extremely important to get vaccinated. People from the BAME community are more susceptible to getting the virus in the first place due to their lower immunity, low vitamin D, which you know, then leads to low immunity. They also have a lot more genetic conditions, heart conditions, diabetes, either through their lifestyles, genetics, or their diet. For that reason, it's even more important that they take this vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, with BAME communities, we tend to have multi-generations living in a household. I mean, I admire the way that Black and ethnic people look after each other. You know, they don't dump granny in a home. You know, they look after her in their own home. But of course, this can work against the BAME people because, you know, if one person catches it, they're going to give it to everybody in the house, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. So Muslim communities are close-knit, and the likelihood of living with mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, grandchildren is a lot more higher. And absolutely, you know, the children will bring it home and the elderly will catch it. So yes, it's extremely important, even more really, that they do vaccinate themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what is it, you know, how do you stand? Muslims, you're okay with having the vaccines? I'm not seeing anybody from your community, Lady Sidra, hesitating, but there does seem to be a lot of others, the Bangladeshi community, for example, misinformation circulating on social media, including false rumours that the vaccine may contain alcohol or pork have been spread widely and are proving difficult to counter.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So there's actually 4 reasons why people from the BAME community may not take the vaccine. So the very first one is there are a huge number of conspiracy theories going around through WhatsApp mainly. Where there's things about Bill Gates, he's, you know, sort of included a chip in there, and that's going to actually monitor Muslims especially, which they are already worried because we're constantly tarnished for being terrorists, and everybody's always on edge, oh, you know, we're being watched and that kind of stuff. So that's really rife out there, the one about the, you know, Bill Gates installing a chip in there. There's so many others, like, you know, it affects your DNA is altered, especially because it's a new vaccine, the mRNA one, especially the Pfizer one. And also, you know, there is so many misunderstandings. So it's actually equated to the flu vaccine. It's actually the flu vaccine given to children that contains pork gelatin in it. So people have misconstrued the internet, and, you know, like Chinese whispers, things get around and people add in a little bit more, and then people are worried they're getting mixed up with this vaccine that has pork in it or alcohol in it, which is absolutely not true at all. It is not true. So there's things like that. The biggest one, especially, you know, you mentioned Bangladeshi community, is the illiteracy of the language. You know, we need a lot more people going out there translating the correct information into our mother tongues, Bengali, Urdu, Punjabi. The leaders of our mosques, they're not saying anything. They're not medically inclined, so a lot of them are staying quiet. And don't forget, our mosques are closed. Our mosques have been closed for a good number of months now. And, you know, that is the hub really for the Muslims to go to get information like this. And because the mosques are closed, the information is not getting out there as well. There are just so many factors in all of this really involved, not just one.
We need people from, you know, your community and some of the other communities perhaps to come forward with the mosques closed. I mean, I saw on BBC television just the other week, Lady Sidra, you know, how you are actually worshipping at the moment.
Yes, we're worshipping from home. Very few mosques, though, are having online sessions where they're giving out sermons over the internet. I think that is the key. That is where the imams need to now start sending out the message. But the other biggest problem we've got is the elderly community, which are the worst really at taking this vaccine. Don't forget, it hasn't got to the younger ones yet. The government started off with the elderly. They don't have access to internet, and they don't listen to their moms online, you see. So they are the ones who are the most likely really then to reject the vaccine. And a lot of the elderly community may not be able to tap into English. They are the ones more likely to. The younger generation can understand English. So this is where the problem is. And so far the vaccine has only gone really fully to the elderly, which are the figures that we have got in the media at the moment. I think there's not a problem with the doctors and the healthcare workers. A lot of them are medically inclined. They've got the knowledge. As far as I know, they have been taking the vaccine. But again, we need more doctors from our community to come forward and speak, especially doctors who have gained the trust of the community and have been working within the NHS for good 20, 30 years. They are the ones who need to come forward, really. And also maybe politicians or people from the BAME community. I mean, Sadiq Khan is somebody who everybody looks to see, is he taking the vaccine? Boris, you know, as far as I've heard, they haven't taken the vaccine yet, but I think it's important for the leaders in the country to take that vaccine to then set, you know, everything going. You know, for example, in Israel, you know, I really commend the Prime Minister there. He took the vaccine first, and then he told everybody, look, I've taken the vaccine, now you take the vaccine.
Yes, and it is safe, absolutely. And of course, Sadiq Khan, you mentioned, he seems more interesting in congestion charging and cycle routes at the moment, rather than perhaps getting the message to people in these communities. Well, I'm hoping, Lady Sidra, we can get this message out to residents in Basildon. We know that there's a proportion in Basildon who are black, who are Muslim. We're speaking on local radio here this afternoon, but the misinformation, I'd just love to know at where it's actually coming from. It starts, it seems, from what you're saying, with a small rumour, but then it sort of gains momentum, and then of course with the power of social media, it then becomes a big thing. And of course now we've got over 100,000 recorded deaths. That's hit that momentous target this week, which is something we didn't want to see. And of course the covers of all the newspapers today is a very grim-looking Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, saying with the headline, "I'm sorry," and apologising to all those families who have lost relatives. Do you think that in the BAME communities, Lady Sidra, there's a lot of mistrust as well of the government?
There is, but I think there's a history of that because of past events. The Iraq War, for example, is a classic, isn't it? Where later on, it came out that the Prime Minister, was saying something different to what it was. I think that's where it comes from. So yes, there is some mistrust with the government, but at the same time, I think it's very important to understand the government is not just going to release a vaccine which is dangerous for its people. Muslim population is a huge amount of England, and I don't think that any government, to be honest, would actually release a vaccine which is dangerous, especially to the BAME community. And from what I can see, the government are doing really well. I mean, they're translating documents. Every leaflet is translated in other languages. And I myself have been approached by the Pakistani government because they wanted somebody, of a higher sort of status to put the word out there. So I've actually done 2 news bulletins in Urdu, which I had to do with a Cockney accent, believe it or not, because Urdu is not my first language. And I did that just yesterday and the day before, and it's gone viral out there. So these are the kinds of things that we need to do, people of higher status to go out there, translate everything into your own language. It doesn't matter if it's a different accent. The fact is you're getting the word out,
Yes. And if you're a person who is upstanding in the local community as well, as you are, now the mic is yours across Basildon and East Thurrock this afternoon. Lady Sidra, what would you like to say live on air on the radio this afternoon to the BAME communities in our catchment?
Take the vaccine. I've had it as well, and I was absolutely fine. I know lots of other people have had it, and they have not exhibited any symptoms at all. In fact, they've exhibited more symptoms by taking the flu vaccine. A little bit of allergy, which medicine is not out there that has any medical conditions attached to it. You look at the back of paracetamol box, and it even tells you can get liver failure from it. So there's not a single medicine out there that has side effects. So this vaccine would not have been released if it was dangerous for anybody. The government is there to protect its country and all the residents in it. And amongst the BAME community, there is a huge rise in deaths because of coronavirus, and the probability of catching the virus is more. So it's even more important for you all to take that vaccine. Protect yourself and protect other lives. In Islam, saving one life is like saving the whole of mankind. And that is what you are doing if you take this vaccine.
There we are. Lady Sidra Naeem, Muslim chaplain, thanks for joining us on Drive Time this afternoon. I think you've made the message loud and clear to the residents of Basildon. Do come back and see us soon on this show, Drive Time at Gateway 97.8.
Thank you very much.
Lady Sidra Naeem, we'll speak to her again very soon, I'm sure. Next
Drive Time with Ross Connors.